This is your WLAK Daily News Roundup for Lake Air, 107.5 FM and 1260 AM in Amory.
Civic Media News. I'm Terry Bell. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. An appeals court says Wisconsin regulators have to develop PFAS restrictions before mandating cleanups. The ruling is a win for businesses in Wisconsin. Attorney General Josh Kaul says he'll appeal the case to the state Supreme Court. Kaul says having to work with lawmakers will slow down the enforcement of new clean drinking water rules. A long-awaited new engineering building will go up at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. Governor Evers is giving final approval to $700 million worth of new construction projects across the UW system. There's money for classroom renovations in Madison and Whitewater and nearly $200 million for central plant renovations and demolition projects. University of Wisconsin campuses will keep more tuition money from Minnesota students from now on. Governor Evers is giving final approval to changes to Wisconsin's reciprocity agreement with Minnesota. Extra money from Minnesota students' tuition used to go to the state's general fund. Republicans are slamming Vice President Kamala Harris after yesterday's Wisconsin visit. Congressman Brian Stiles says she's trying to distract from the Biden administration's record.
There's a reason Vice President Harris didn't come and speak to people who are checking out at a grocery store, because she'd get an earful about how this administration's policies are making it harder and harder for families to get by.
Wisconsin Republican Party Chairman Brian Schimming.
The very same working people that she was standing in front of have been the most punished under this administration. That is demonstrably true.
Harris was in Madison to talk about apprenticeships in the trades and infrastructure. 2 of the 4 inmates found dead at the Waupun State Prison since June died of a drug overdose and a stroke. Tyshawn Lemons and Cameron Williams died in October. Medical examiners are still investigating 2 other deaths at the prison. Some inmates sued the Corrections Department last fall over what they call grossly inadequate health care. Organic farmers say producers and consumers are better off now that a federal court is banning the use of the pesticide dicamba. George Naylor says it wasn't worth it.
I could see my soil deteriorating, and I also looked at the price of what herbicide was going to cost me one year, and I go, jeepers creepers, so I just will try organic.
The Center for Food Safety says dicamba might have affected as many as 1 in every 6 acres of ultra-sensitive soybeans. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Here's what you need to know closer to home.
For WLAK News, I'm James Kelly. A newly introduced bill could provide St. Louis County with a lot of help funding EMS services in rural areas. DFL lawmakers proposed the bill last week, which would send $120 million to EMS providers, mostly in rural communities across the state. St. Louis County Commissioner Annie Horala says the county is one of the areas that would benefit the most from the bill due to its size and the number of rural communities it has within its borders. The legislation likely won't pass until included in an omnibus bill. Some St. Louis County residents got a bit of a shock during an emergency system test on Wednesday. According to county officials, one of the operators of the test accidentally pressed the warning button instead of the test button, causing the real emergency alert tone to sound. The mistake would have only been apparent to residents who can tell the difference between the real emergency tone and the test emergency tone, but St. Louis County officials apologized for concerns following the mistake nonetheless. The Visit Duluth tourism program has been bestowed with an award for its marketing. According to a Northern News Now report, Visit Duluth's leisure tourism marketing program won the Creating a Welcoming Experience Award at a recent statewide tourism conference. Officials say the city's tourism program set a record for tax collection in 2023, outpacing pre-pandemic levels by nearly 19%. The award is given to an organization that creates a welcoming experience for visitors through inclusivity. The Boys and Girls Club of the Northland has received a significant donation from a local grocery store chain. According to a Northern News Now report, Super One and Super One liquor locations donated $36,000 to the Boys and Girls Club of the Northland on Wednesday. The money for the donations came from shoppers at the stores who chose to round up their checkout totals to the nearest dollar or just outright make a donation. The money will help the organization with staffing and buying supplies. State lawmakers are spending more time in Madison than they have in years past. According to a Wiz Politics report, state lawmakers spent nearly 12,900 days in the Capitol in 2023, compared to about 11,500 in 2021. In addition to the extra time spent at the Capitol, lawmakers are spending more per diem money. Records from the chief clerk's offices show state lawmakers combined to spend over $1.4 million in per diem money in 2023, compared to $1.2 million in 2022. The head coach of the University of Wisconsin Superior's women's hockey team has announced his retirement. According to a Northern News Now report, Dan Laughlin was one of the longest tenured coaches in Division III women's hockey. He first became an assistant coach with the team in 2002, taking over as head coach the following season. Under his leadership, the team won 3 conference regular season championships, 1 conference playoff championship, and appeared in the NCAA tournament twice. A Wisconsin appeals court has ruled that environmental regulators can't force private landowners to clean up PFAS contamination until they develop specific PFAS restrictions. The 2nd District Court of Appeals made the decision on Wednesday, forcing the Department of Natural Resources to wait until legislators impose groundwater limits on PFAS before they can mandate cleanups. Environmental activists say the decision could seriously hamper the DNR in their responses to PFAS and other pollution issues. The League of Women Voters has taken a strong stance regarding the Namaji Trail Energy Center project. According to a Fox 21 report, the League is opposing the natural gas electric plant in Superior, saying the project would have negative effects on a number of groups, including children and those with weakened immune systems. The organization cited health statistics that show an increase in asthma hospitalizations, respiratory infections, and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease in the area of other similar plants. And that's what you need to know. For WLAK News, I'm James Kelly.
Partly cloudy today. We'll get to around 54 for a high this afternoon with wind out of the southeast at 5 to 15. Tonight, mostly cloudy. Some light rain after midnight. Our low 33. Tomorrow, cloudy with light showers. 45. We'll get to 43 Saturday. We're back to near 50 by Sunday. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Temperature now 38.
Bucks lose to Golden State. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Bucks had their 6-game winning streak snapped, losing to the Golden State Warriors, 125-90. Milwaukee down by 20 at the half, but Doc Rivers says don't get mad about their defense.
This is the first night in a long time where we just didn't play together. Our floor balance was so bad. We took so many bad shots. We had so many bad possessions that when we got back, we were never matched up, and they took advantage of it.
The Bucks road trip continues in L.A. against the Lakers tomorrow night. In Arizona, the Brewers had a split doubleheader, half the team playing the Cleveland Guardians in a 3-3 tie. Backup catcher Eric Haas playing well, the other half losing to the Reds 2-0. In Green Bay, the Girls State High School basketball tournament is underway at the Resch Center. The finals on Saturday. Tonight in Madison, it's the Badgers against Rutgers.
You continue to push. You continue to reward the guys that are playing winning basketball and then helping the guys that are trying to find that space for them.
That's Badgers head basketball coach Greg Gard. Hockey, 2 Badgers players, forward Kirsten Sims and defender Caroline Harvey, rewarded as the best at their positions by the Women's Collegiate Hockey Association. The Badgers women's team in Minnesota this weekend for the final face-off tournament. College basketball, Marquette losing to number 2 ranked UConn, 74-67. Head coach Shaka Smart.
Congrats to Coach Hurley and UConn. They did a heck of a job making us pay.
The Huskies head coach Dan Hurley.
It's a privilege, every time we get a chance to play Marquette and what Shaka's built here. 2 championship-level programs took the court. Obviously, we're thrilled with the win.
In the front row at Fiserv Forum was Packers head coach Matt LaFleur and the Bears' Matt Eberflus. Whenever they put LaFleur's face up on the scoreboard, the fans cheered, and every time they showed Eberflus, the crowd booed. That's sports. I'm Mike Clemens.
I'm Pete with the 60-second Showbiz Beat. Despite what have been called Oscar snubs of Barbie director Greta Gerwig and star Margot Robbie, there is good news for women in general when it comes to the Academy Awards. The Annenberg Inclusion Initiative did a study that reports that 32% of this year's Academy Award nominees are women. That ties the all-time high reached in 2021. There was also an uptick in nominations for people of color. The study says despite that bit of progress, are still far underrepresented overall. Steve! Exclamation point included. That is the name of the new 2-part documentary about Steve Martin. Martin has had such an amazing career, you could do a 2-year series. The Only Murders in the Building star talks about his amazing career in films including Father of the Bride, Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid, and The Jerk. What some people might not know is Martin can also sing and dance and was a hilarious stand-up comic who used to sell out arenas. The documentary about the wild and crazy guy drops March 29th on Apple TV. Comedian Sinbad has been working the road to recovery. The New York Post reports the 67-year-old performer and star of The Sinbad Show suffered a stroke in 2020. He made his first appearance on social media in over a year when he joined the cast of A Different World on Zoom and thanked fans for their support and prayers. Sinbad had to learn how to walk all over again. The comedian, who in addition to being a consummate performing pro, also has a reputation for being a really nice guy. The show must not go on. TMZ reports that actor stand-up comedian Nick Swartzen was escorted off the stage in the middle of a performance in Beaver Creek, Colorado. Swartzen admitted to being under the influence and incoherent to the point where management turned his mic off. He took to Twitter the next day and said he would make it up to his fans and blamed his incoherent state on alcohol, edibles, and the altitude. Yes, even with chemicals, Nick is much funnier at sea level. Dakota Johnson has lots to say about her box office flop, Marvel's Madam Web, a film about a Manhattan paramedic who can see and change the future. Some critics are calling it one of the worst superhero movies ever made. Johnson doesn't totally disagree, adding that the script they ended up shooting was different than the one they sent her initially. Haha. That old bit. They sent her Oppenheimer? The actress says it was not fun to be part of something that was ripped to shreds. Her character in Madam Web would have predicted this. There's good news for fans of TV's Cooper Family. Young Sheldon is in its final season, but there will be a spin-off of the Big Bang Theory spin-off. People magazine reports Emily Osment and Montana Jordan will continue their roles as Mandy McAllister and Georgie Cooper. The show is yet another prequel to the Big Bang Theory. There are only so many prequels executive producer Chuck Lorre can do until they announce a fall lineup, which includes Sheldon in utero, and he'd still be smarter than everyone. For more showbiz fun, tune in to Nightlight with me, Pete Schwaba, every night between 7 and 9 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
That's your WLAK Daily News Roundup from Civic Media. Subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you find your podcasts. Find more news at lakeair.radio.